Alright guys, BLM here, back with a new video. In this video, I will be talking about the possibility of Survivor runners-up. Now, obviously, I've done a similar video to this for Survivor All Winners before that actually happened, and obviously I incorrectly guessed that Survivor Winners wasn't happening until Survivor 50. I also had a video where I did Survivor First Boots, but here we're going to be talking about Survivor runners-up, a cast full of people that were runners-up on Survivor. So first off, I'm going to be talking about how likely I feel like production is to actually do a season like this. And after that, I'll be talking through every single runner-up of the show, talking about how likely I think it is for them to return to a season like this. But again, about the possibility of this season, I think it's somewhat likely. I think it is a group of people that could come together. Now, by runners-up, the way I look at it is anyone that made it to Final Tribal Council. I know some people look at it as only the second place finishers. I just feel like that's kind of harder to get. Again, that's a much tighter group of people, especially because some of those people are already winners. Some of those people are runners-up twice, like Amanda. I mean, it isn't a wide net of people. And mind you, if they do a season like this, I don't see it happening until at least Survivor 50, possibly even beyond that. But I think as of right now for Survivor 40, if they were to pull in people that, just anyone that made the Final Tribal, so including third place finishers from seasons that had a Final 3, I do think this is a very easy cast to put together and a really fun cast at that. Something I realized while going through this cast of people is that so many second and third place finishers are fantastic Survivor characters. A lot of Survivor legends are in this pool of people, and I think because of that, you can create a pretty good cast out of this group. Now, will production actually do this? I don't think so. I think they're much more likely to do a season like a Survivor Legends or a like best and never win sort of season where you include people like a Suri or some people that just didn't make it the Final Tribal. I think that's probably more likely than an actual runner-up season, because runner-up season is a very niche sort of concept. I mean, obviously All Winners is something that they did, but it's all winners. I mean, it's like the cream of the crop of Survivor seasons, and to go from that to a runner-up season, I do feel like that would be looked at as like sort of a downgrade for Survivor. And I think because that this season is probably less likely to happen now, especially because they already did All Winners for 40. I would personally like to see it. I mean, I think it would be a great theme for something like Survivor 50, maybe 60 if we get there. But realistically, I don't think it's going to happen, mainly because I don't feel like production would really want to do this specific theme. I mean, mind you, they could do a legend season and like have like half the cast be runners up anyway. For a strict runner up season, I don't feel like it is likely, but I did put together a cast anyway. I mean, this is a cast that I think can come together. I think it's a really fun cast. So I did make my own cast of 20 of runners up. So I'll talk about that as we go through each of the runners-up, and then obviously talk about it as a whole at the end of the video. Let's go through the runners-up one by one now, starting off with Kelly Wigglesworth. Kelly Wigglesworth is never playing Survivor again, or at least I really hope she doesn't. I mean, she's so boring. Obviously, when she was returning to Cambodia, that was like a big deal. It was like really awesome. Oh, Kelly Wigglesworth coming back to Survivor 15 years later. But then like you watched her play and it's like she didn't do anything. That, and also she was just a really boring character. I also feel like production has no real reason to bring her back. I don't feel like she would really want to come back. I mean, she didn't seem to like the modern game of Survivor, so I didn't put Kelly Wigglesworth on my cast. Now for Colby Donaldson, I did put on my cast. I love Colby Donaldson. I think he's a great figure in Survivor. I think if you're having like any sort of legend season, or again, this runner-up season, I think you kind of have to have Colby. And also Colby wants to play again. I mean, last time I heard, which I think was a couple years ago, Colby did say that he wanted to play again. Why not have him on the cast? Now for Kim Johnson is not playing Survivor again. Let's move on. Now for Leah, I like Leah. I really do actually want to see her play again. I think a runner-up season is probably her best opportunity. However, just looking at the field, I don't feel like she makes the cut. I just feel like there's better, or I should say more prominent Survivor figures than her to take from some of these like kind of earlier seasons. I mean, spoiler, I have a decent amount of people from like the 11 to 15 range, and I feel like they take Leah's spot. I would like to see Leah play again, but again, it's just that there's no proof that Survivor has ever thought about bringing her back outside of Survivor All-Stars, so I don't feel like her return is super likely, so I left her off my cast. Clay Jordan. Come on. Clay's not playing Survivor again. Now for Matthew. Come on, Matthew's not playing Survivor again. I mean, I actually did consider Matthew for like a little second, but then I was like, you know what? He's never been asked back. I mean, he's not playing again. Now for Lille. I love Lille as a character. I mean, she is a complete lunatic, but it's like, she's not playing Survivor again. I don't think she wants to come back. I don't think production wants her to come back. I mean, yeah, she's not playing again. Boston Rob, I already mentioned this earlier. I'm not going to include former winners on this list. I feel like it kind of ruins the appeal of a runners-up season to have some of these runners-up that were also winners. So because of that, I left Boston Rob off. Twila. I put Twila on my cast. Again, Twila's another one that production was wanting to bring back for a little while at least. I'm from Micronesia for Heroes vs. Villains. I'm sure she got the call for Blood vs. Water because everyone did. But from what I understand, she hasn't been called in a while. I mean, I think for a runners-up season, why not? I mean, I don't know how old she is at this point. I mean, she's got to be older than what Denise is in All Winners. And considering that they didn't put like Tina on All Winners, it's kind of worrying for Twila. But I still put Twila on my cast. Now for Katie Gallagher, I don't know. I didn't put her on my cast just because, again, I feel like she's another one that production just hasn't asked back that much. And because I decided that it wasn't really worth putting her on an actual cast. That being said, I wouldn't mind seeing her back. I think it would be interesting to see her play Survivor again. It's not something that I feel like I need. I mean, it's not like a necessity for an all-star season to have Katie Gallagher back, but I wouldn't mind seeing her back. But again, there's just no proof that production wants her back. I didn't put her on my cast. Now for Guatemala, I did put Stefanie LaGrosse on my cast. Again, another Survivor legend, another person who's expressed interest recently in coming back to Survivor. I thought Stefanie was a good pick here. I mean, how different will she play? Probably not at all. But again, for a runner-up season like this, you're going to want to have these legendary figures come back. So I put Stefanie on the cast. From Panama, we have Danielle DeLorenzo. And I actually put Danielle DeLorenzo on my cast. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing her back. I mean, she is someone that supposedly was in the running for Edge of Extinction for some reason. I think it would be interesting to see her come back. I mean, obviously last time she played was Survivor Heroes vs. Villains, which, by the way, I do have 5 people here from Survivor Heroes vs. Villains, so I kind of broke my own rule of having 4 people per season, but oh well. But Danielle DeLorenzo, I mean, you could switch her out for like Leah. I don't think that would be a bad choice there, and that would also keep my rule. But I just felt like Danielle DeLorenzo is more of a probability of a returnee at this point, so I put Danielle DeLorenzo on the cast. Now we're moving on to the first final 3. So we have Becky and we have Ozzy from Cook Islands. I did not put Becky, obviously. I don't think Becky is in production's radar. I don't think they want her back. But Ozzy, I decided to put him on. It's a tough one because I feel like production's kind of bored of Ozzy. I don't feel like production wants Ozzy back again. I mean, even for Game Changers, production didn't want Ozzy. It was CBS that forced them to put Ozzy on the cast. Here for a runners-up season, though, I feel like you kind of have to have Ozzy. I feel like Ozzy is such a prominent runner-up of the show. He lost in a 5-4 vote to Yule, was such a figure of the physical game of Survivor, that I do feel like it'll be kind of weird to not have Ozzy on a runner-up season. So because of that, I did put him on my cast. And is someone that is still in the good graces of production. I mean, even though I don't feel like they want to see him back, I don't think they hate him. I don't think it's like a certain other player that we'll be talking about very soon. But again, I did decide to put him on my cast. I do think a return for him for this type of season is somewhat likely. Now for Survivor Fiji, we have Cassandra and we have Dreams, neither of which made my cast. I would love to see Dreams play again. I think Dreams would be a really interesting returnee. I just don't think production has any interest in it. And I don't think production has any interest in Cassandra. And I don't think really anyone has interest in seeing Cassandra play again. So she didn't make the cut. Now for China, and at one point I actually had both Amanda and Courtney on my cast. But the more I thought about it, I had to cut one. I decided to cut Courtney because I felt like she's less likely to want to return. I mean, I don't get the sense from Courtney that she wants to play again. I mean, she is someone that hated her first time playing the game, and it was even a big shock that she came back for Heroes vs. Villains. And also, I just feel like Amanda's a more prominent runner-up than her. Obviously, Amanda is someone that was a runner-up twice. I mean, obviously, we won't be talking about Micronesia because she was the runner-up in Micronesia. So I feel like because that Amanda is a more prominent runner-up, I feel like she makes it onto the cast. Again, I also didn't want 6 people from Heroes vs. Villains. I didn't want more people from Heroes vs. Villains. So I had to limit it here. I went with Amanda. And also, I think the idea of having Amanda and Ozzy on the same cast again is kind of fun. And also, Amanda and Danielle DeLorenzo on the same cast again would be kind of fun. Now we're kind of in for a string of people that I didn't put on my cast, but we'll still talk through them anyway. So from Gabon, we have Sugar and we have Susie. I think Sugar is someone that obviously came back for Heroes vs. Villains. I don't think they want to deal with her ever again. While I do think she's probably better now, I mean, she's probably in a better spot in her life, I don't feel like they want to deal with what they had to deal with at Ponderosa with her ever again. I don't see Sugar ever coming back. Susie was never coming back to begin with. Let's move on. Stephen Fishback, I think, is someone that they would definitely want back. I don't think he wants to play again. Maybe if he got asked for a runners-up season, maybe it would be like a Jeremy or a Boston Rob or some of these other people for all winners that didn't want to come back right away. As of right now, I don't see Stephen Fishback as a likely returnee. So because of that, I didn't put him on. From Samoa, we have Mick and we have Russell. Now, Mick, I mean, come on. They're never bringing back Mick. I mean, no one cares about Mick. But Russell is interesting. I would like to see Russell on this season. I think Russell is one of the most prominent runners-up of Survivor. However, I think he's ruined his relationship with Survivor. Him and his family have ruined their relationship with CBS as a whole. And because of that, I do think it's very tough to see Russell being back on Survivor. Mind you, he was in the Survivor 40 retrospective, which is a good sign for him. But overall, I don't feel good about him returning to Survivor, though there definitely is a spot for him. I mean, we'll talk about someone, actually the next person that I did put on the cast. I feel like Russell could easily replace that person. Russell making the cast, I think, isn't super likely because of production reasons, but on a realistic, idealistic cast, I think he makes the cut, obviously. Now, we're not even going to talk about Heroes vs. Villains because obviously Parvati's a winner. Russell is obviously also a runner-up from Samoa. So let's move on to Nicaragua, where we have Chase Rice and we have Sash. Sash, I wouldn't mind seeing play again. I just don't feel like it's likely at all. I mean, I just don't feel like production likes Sash at all. And also, he hasn't been asked back since then. I don't think he's being asked back here. And then Chase, I think he's too big for Survivor at this point. I just don't see him wanting to come back to Survivor. I mean, I do think it'll be cool. I wouldn't mind seeing him play again. I think Chase is a very underrated player in the history of Survivor, but again, not super likely for a return here. Now from Survivor 22, we have Nat 10 and we have Phillip Shepherd. So Nat 10, I considered her. I think Nat 10 could be on the cast. Again, I think you could switch her out for a number of these women that are on here, but I didn't put her on. I mean, she was considered for second chance. I mean, I think that's a good sign for her, but again, even that's been 5 years since then. From what I understand, she wasn't in the running for Game Changers, so I think it's kind of a tough spot for Nat 10. But for Phillip Shepherd, I put him on the cast. I think the problem with Phillip Shepherd is that from what I understand is that he doesn't really want to play Survivor again. But I think production would definitely want him back. And again, I do think he's a very prominent sort of runner-up of Survivor. That being said, again, I think you can swap him out for Russell Hantz, and I think I'll be fine. I think Russell Hantz is someone that I would like on a cast more than Phillip Shepherd, but because I don't feel like Russell is super likely, I decided to put Phillip instead. But again, you could swap them out. It's fine. Now for South Pacific, we have Albert and we have Coach. Now for Albert, I don't think he's likely. I think the exact same thing for Albert as I said with Sash. I think production didn't like him, and he hasn't been asked back since. I wouldn't mind a return from him. I think he's a very interesting player, but again, just don't see it being very likely. Coach is a lock. I mean, how do you not have Coach on a season like this? I mean, you kind of have to have him. Again, he's a Survivor legend, such a prominent figure in Survivor, great character, solid enough player. I think he would be a great fit for this cast. Now for One World, we have Chelsea and we have Sabrina. And I actually put both of them on the cast. And the main reason for this is because both of them have been asked back for every All-Star season since their original appearance, but have always been cut. And I feel like for a runner-up season, obviously this is a good spot for them. I think they could both make the cast. I think Sabrina's probably more of a lock than Chelsea. I feel like with Chelsea, there's more people to replace her with. I mean, again, Nat 10 is a good pick. I think you could replace her with Leah. But I did put both of them on the cast. I do think a return from either of them is pretty likely at this point in Survivor. Now for Philippines, we have Scoopin. I mean, come on. And we have Lisa. And Lisa, I just don't feel like she wants to play Survivor again. I just feel like it's very unlikely. I didn't put her on my cast. Now from Caramoan, we have Sherry and we have Dawn. Sherry, I just don't feel like Survivor wants to see her again. I mean, I would be very surprised if she was ever asked back for any other season. Obviously not making the cut. Dawn is more interesting though. I considered Dawn for a little bit. I mean, I do think a return from Dawn would be fun. I just feel like there's better people in a similar sort of archetype to her. Of the like strong older woman, mother figure sort of person. I just feel like there's better options, so I left Dawn off. Now for 27, we have Gervais and we have Monica. Gervais I really considered. I thought Gervais would be fun. I mean, again, you could swap out Gervais for like Phillip Shepherd. I'll be fine with that. But I didn't put Gervais on the cast. But again, I wouldn't mind seeing a return from Gervais, actually. Monica's a bit more interesting, though. I really considered Monica. I actually was a second away from putting on the cast. The main reason I didn't is because I felt like it was kind of overkill to have her, Sabrina, and Chelsea on the same cast. Having 3 people from One World is kind of overkill, especially because One World's not that good of a season. But having her on the same cast with Brad Culpepper was very enticing. I decided to leave her off. Again, there's a lot of people in her archetype as well. That's what's kind of tough. But again, if this was a real season, having her and Brad on the same cast would be really fun. Next up, we got Wu, and I think Wu would come back for a runner-up season. I mean, I think Wu would come back for any season that they ask him for, but I think a runner-up season is the type of season that they would ask him back. I think he has a great story for a return. Obviously, Second Chance was kind of a weird outcome for him, but I do think his return is pretty likely. I put him on my cast. But again, I think if you want to swap him out for like a Gervais or swap him out for a Russell or really just any other guy here that I've talked about that didn't make the cast, I think that'll be fine. Now from 29, we have Missy and we have Jacqueline. I didn't put either of them on. Missy, I just feel like she's kind of forgotten about at this point in Survivor history. I don't feel like production's very likely to bring her back. Jacqueline is a bit more interesting. I mean, I think Jacqueline, you could swap her out for Chelsea, and I think she could be on the cast. Survivor 30, we have Will Sims and we have Carolyn. Will Sims is obviously never playing Survivor again, but Carolyn, I think, is a lock. I think she's a guaranteed pick here for a season like this. I mean, Carolyn is someone that production loves. They've been wanting to bring her back for a while. She's just always missed the cut. I think she easily makes it here for this runner-up cast. Now for Cambodia, we have Tasha and we have Spencer. Tasha, I didn't really consider. I feel like Tasha is someone that production doesn't really want to see back anymore. I feel like she's kind of played her part in Survivor history, coming from being such a fan favorite in Cagayan to being such a GOAT in Cambodia, where she pretty much loses against every single person on that cast. And I don't feel like a return from her is super likely. Spencer, though, I think production would definitely want him back. He'll definitely get the call. I just think he'll say no. I didn't put him on my cast because of that. I think Spencer's one of the bigger figures in the casting pool for this runner-up season, but again, I just don't feel like he wants to return. Now for Co-Wrong, we have Ty and we have Aubrey. And I put Ty on my cast. I think Ty is almost a lock for a season like this. I mean, I see no reason why he would say no to a season like this. I think production would want him back. I mean, he's just a good all-around figure for the show. I mean, he's going to play hard. He is really entertaining on the show. He's a fan favorite. I see no reason to not bring him back. Aubrey, though, I just don't feel like she wants to come back, right? I mean, I feel like she's kind of drained out the edge of extinction. Mind you, if this season eventually comes around, like Survivor 50, maybe she'll be back by then. But I feel like she's already played 3 times in the course of, 6 seasons? I mean, she's kind of been overexposed, and because of that, for now, I left her off my cast, though sometime in the future, I do think a return from her is somewhat likely. Now from 33, we have Hanna and we have Ken. Hanna, from what I understand, does not want to play again. I would not be surprised if they want her to come back, but she doesn't want to, so I left her off. Ken, I think, is the opposite. I mean, I don't think production has any interest in bringing Ken back. I don't think he brings much unique to the table, especially nothing that production would actually want, especially for a big season like this, so I left Ken off the cast. Now for 34, we have Troyzan and we have Brad. I think Troyzan's done, right? I mean, I like Troyzan. I mean, I know a lot of people hate Troyzan for One World and thought he was really just boring and non-existent and game changers. I really like Troyzan. I just don't feel like production has any reason to bring him back at this point. But Brad Culpepper, I think he's one of the bigger locks on the board. I mean, I think Brad is pretty much guaranteed a spot in a season like this. I'd be very, very surprised if we don't see Brad Culpepper on Survivor again. Now for HHH, we got Ryan and we got Chrissy, and I actually put both of them on the cast. I think both of them are fantastic characters and good players as well. I mean, Ryan is someone that is kind of like the Cochran figure of that season, kind of the nerdy archetype. And we don't have many of those in the runner-up pool, especially those willing to return. I mean, I think if Steven wanted to come back, I think he probably takes Ryan's spot, but I don't feel like Steven does want to come back. So I think Ryan gets the spot here. And for Chrissy, I just think Chrissy's, again, another really likely returnee, almost a lock. I think she's someone that pretty big figure on her season, won a whole bunch of immunities, played really hard, debatably almost won the game. I mean, personally, in my opinion, I do think Ryan was much closer to winning, as it is my personal belief that Ryan does win a final 3 between him, Devin, and Chrissy, but whatever, that's for another video. But Chrissy's obviously a major get for a season like this. She made my cast. For 36, we have Laurel and we have Dominic. I considered Laurel. I just don't know how production really feels about her. I don't know if they're willing to give her another shot So because of that, I did decide to leave her off, though. Again, if she was on a season like this, it wouldn't be that surprising. But Dominic is an absolute lock. I don't know how you do a season like this without Dominic. I mean, obviously, he tied the winner in terms of jury votes. I mean, he almost won the game. And also, he's such a big figure, big character, big player. Don't see any reason to not bring him back. He's obviously on the cast here. Now, for 37, we have Angelina and we have Mike White. Now, Angelina, I think, is one of the bigger locks on the board as well. I think she's pretty much guaranteed a spot in this sort of season. However, she is currently having a kid, so it's like that's probably going to hold her back for at least a couple seasons on a return. However, again, if this was like Survivor 50, I think by then Angelina's a lock on this cast. Mike White, I would like to see it. I just don't feel like production is incentivized to see him back. And also, I don't feel like Mike White himself wants to come back. So because of that, I left him off. From 38, we have Julie and we have Gavin. And I don't feel like either of them are particularly likely to return. I think Julie is more likely to return than Gavin. I think Julie was at least a big figure in Edge of Extinction. However, the fact that she wasn't even put on the DVD cover, I think is worrying for her returning chances. And Gavin, I mean, I just don't feel like production particularly liked Gavin. Got a really small edit, was barely on the show. I don't really see them asking him back. And finally, for 39, we have Nora and we have Dean. And I did put both of them on the cast. They both take up the final spots on my cast. Nora is an obvious lock. I mean, she's such a great character. One of the best characters in the history of Survivor. I mean, she's a terrible player. I mean, there's that. But I think for runner-up season, I mean, we have enough good players already. Why not put Nora on? And then for Dean, I think Dean's a big player. I think he's someone that is a fun character. He had his character moments, but he also was willing to play really hard. I think he had really innovative ideas. While he played a very sloppy game, I do think he is someone that would be really fun to have on a return. So he made my cast as well. So there we go. That is every runner-up in the history of Survivor. So to go through the people that made my personal cast, we have Colby Donaldson, we have Twila Tanner, we have Stefanie LaGrosse, we have Danielle DeLorenzo, we have Ozzy Luce, we have Amanda Kimmel, we have Phillip Shepard, we have Ben Coach Wade, we have Chelsea Meisner, we have Sabrina Thompson, we have Wu Wang, we have Carolyn Rivera, we have Tai Trang, we have Brad Culpepper, we have Chrissy Hoffbeck, we have Ryan Ulrich, we have Dominic Abate, we have Angelina Keeley, we have Dean Kowalski, and we have Nora Salmon. So that's my personal cast, obviously including third place finishers that didn't make it to final tribal as well. Obviously, if you exclude that, that takes out some people like Ryan, and Angelina, and Nora, and even Ty, and Chelsea. And I think if you cut those people, there are replacements for them. I think no matter how you cut it, I think there is a way to put this cast together, whether you want to be only second place finishers or if you want to mix in third place finishers as well. But again, I just don't feel like production would be incentivized to make a season solely based on this theme. I think it would be fun, but I think if they are going to go through trouble of getting these people together, I think they're more likely to do in a legend season or best to never win or something to that nature over strictly restricting it to these people. But I mean, it is a wide enough pool. It's a pool of what, over 50 people. I mean, it's more people than were in the casting pool for Survivor All Winners, and they were able to put that together. So for a runner-up season, I do think it would be fun if they were able to put this together. I just don't feel like it's super likely. So there we go. Those are my opinions on the possibility of a Survivor runner-up season. It might be the last of these possibility of sort of videos for Survivor because I don't know what else I would even do. Obviously, I will be doing more casting videos, though, so stay tuned for those in the future. But for now, that's the video. Thank you for watching.